One of the most decisive wars in American history. One that's taught in American schools across the nation, or at least in the 48, on the mainland 48 states, because that's where it happened. Something that set brother against brother, family against family, state against state. This was the American Civil War. Now, the American Civil War is the most bloodiest conflict on American soil. And, well, I've seen my analytics, and most of my viewers are from the States, so this is just like a recap if you're doing that final, but the American Civil War was against the United States of America and the Confederate States of America. Now, after the abolishment of slavery, obviously the southern states relied on slavery. They were like, this is our lifestyle. We've got to preserve it. We've got to preserve our lifestyle, otherwise we'll be crushed. We'll be destroyed. And so they broke away from the Union, forming the Confederate States. Now, this initially consisted of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. But other states would join when the war kicked off, like Virginia, Oklahoma, and Missouri. The Union was skeptical about the Confederate States, but then when they went down to Fort Sumter, they were like, we're not having this. You will abolish slavery, and you will rejoin us. And so, the American Civil War began. Now, the original states that I started listing earlier, they were the true Confederate states. But, as the war went on, Virginia seceded, I think Kentucky seceded, Oklahoma, and Missouri. All of them seceded. Now, a little story about Virginia. Now, the state of Virginia was skeptical whether to join or not, as there was a high Confederate support in the state of Virginia, but in the west part of Virginia, there was a high Union support. So when Virginia seceded, the west side of Virginia seceded from Virginia and joining the Union. And thus we have West Virginia. So, the war began in 1861, and for the first year and a half it was any normal war, but then it went into a stalemate. Both sides had to do something. Both sides had to do something to break the deadlock. Now, of course, the two capitals were not 200 miles away from each other, which is not the best move, but Robert E. Lee decided to flank into Maryland and round to Washington. Now, he looked at the maps and he was like, this is possible, but there's one town we got to take. One town which, if we don't take this, we're not going to win the war. Now, obviously, the Union was slowly making their way up and down the Mississippi, trying to cut the Confederates in half. So if they could take Washington, they could win the war. The Battle of Gettysburg would be the decisive battle, like the Battle of Stalingrad, like the Battle of Midway. All of which changed the war into the victor's hands. Gettysburg was the single most destructive battle on American soil, and the Union actually won it. And thus, the Confederates started losing, and losing, and losing. By the time 1865 rolled around, the Union had captured the Mississippi, and they were capturing the Delaware. This was not looking good. Well, at least I think it was the Delaware River. It was a river, and the Confederates had one last-ditch attempt, and that was to strike at the Union's president, President Abraham Lincoln. Now, he was there, sat in his theatre box, watching the theatre, and then a Southerner walks in, literally just walks on in, pulls out a pistol, and shoots Lincoln directly in the back of the head, shouting, "The South will prevail." Obviously, in the following week, the Civil War ends and the Union wins. But that last-ditch attempt wasn't as last-ditch. Abraham Lincoln took 9 hours to die from that headshot wound, but it only took the Confederate States 9 days to crumble. As I say, this is the most destructive war on American soil, and one that can never ever actually be repeated, because in the Constitution of America, it states that no state is allowed to secede from the Union, ever. So unless the Articles of Confederation get burnt and there's mass anarchy like the Purge, the United States of America is going to be a powerhouse. So I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think of the American Civil War down in the comments below. And I will see you next time for one of the most lawless people I have ever researched about.